Hey guys, it's Elizabeth Wales. I'm so excited. It's snowing right now and it's beautiful. It's lightened up a little bit, but we're getting a little bit more winter finally, which we need here in California. But I'm also so excited to be sharing with you about what I've been learning about empathy. I'm a single mom, I'm a health educator, and through struggles of my own, I've found solutions that I'm excited to share with you. So please please share. I'd like to bring as much value to as many people as I can. So I've been talking to some amazing, beautiful people who have so much empathy, and it's really spurred on some very interesting conversations. And I've also been reading this book by Ed Rush called The 21-Day Miracle. He's a 5-time best-selling author, and one of my dear clients, friends, and teammates gave me this book to read, and it's about improving our lives so we are really living the kind of lives that we want and not just haphazardly taking the life that we get, and changes that we can do to improve our lives. And he talks about empathy, and I want to share with you what he says and then a couple other things that I have found in my research as well. So here's a question. Are we training ourselves to be unempathetic? There's a woman named Helen Rice, and she is a part of a program at the Harvard Medical School called the Empathy and Relational Science Program. And she wrote a book called The Empathy Effect. And her research suggests that empathy is a skill that can be taught, not something we just have or we don't. Isn't that interesting? Now, Ed Rush also talks about how we can increase our empathy. And he says we need to spend 10 minutes a day thinking about someone else. And he has a few questions that we can run through to help guide us in our thinking about others. Because I think that as a culture, we're pretty bad at it. At least most of us. Not all of us. Like I said, I've been talking to some amazing empathetic people lately. So here are some things that you can meditate on or pray on to help improve your empathy and your concern for someone else. What are they thinking about now? What's a big priority for them this month? If they could go on anywhere on vacation, right now, where would it be? What books are they reading? What movies have they been waiting to watch? And this one is so important. What's the biggest challenge that they are facing right now? So taking these into a quiet place, putting on some music and meditating or praying is a way for us to stop thinking about ourselves all the time and start thinking about the other people in our lives. And that is how we train to be empathetic. Now, this is a pretty big problem in our culture, as Helen Rice explains. This is very interesting. So what they are trying to do is to help people see the vulnerability that another is feeling and not dismiss them because they're having an emotion, but actually try to figure out what they need and their specific needs. These skills also help with parenting and other relationships. She says, I wish I had known some of these empathy skills when I was raising my children. I've learned a lot along the way. Empathy is the antidote to fear. When we live in a state of fear, we close off our heart defensively, whereas empathy opens our hearts. As a society, we are living in a state of massive fear exaggeration right now. And it is really closing off a lot of hearts and minds. We are all wired to recognize threats. And we recognize threats much more quickly than we recognize gratitude and opportunity. A large percentage of what we perceive as threatening, we're actually projecting onto others. Now, have you ever been projected onto? Maybe you were trying to help someone. Maybe you were trying to, be kind and share with them something that you've learned that might benefit them. And they project onto you something that you totally were not bringing into the conversation. I have. That's a really bad feeling. And when you're on that other side, you recognize how often you might be doing that in your life, and that we want to be careful that we are being empathetic and trying to figure out where someone actually is coming from instead of jumping to a conclusion and projecting on them our own personal fear and threat. Now, this is the next very interesting part about training ourselves to be unempathetic. Okay, so many people are set into rushing and getting the most out of everybody and acting as if there is such a scarcity in everything, which is a kind of fear. I think one of the biggest myths is to have everyone feel as if there is just not enough. If we flipped that around and said there's enough for everyone, I think we could ease up on everything. That abundance has to come from our leaders is true, but it has to also come from within. Now, maybe you've heard of this before. What she's talking about is the abundance versus the scarcity mindset. I've personally been a student of these mindsets for many years because I recognize that I do have a tendency to have that scarcity mindset, and so many of us do. And the scarcity mindset is saying there's not enough for everyone, so I need to look out for me because survival for me is my most important. And this is part of how a human is wired. We are wired to survive, but what we need to recognize is that there is enough for everyone. And there's definitely enough for everyone when we are all contributing at our maximum level. And that is the crux of the abundance mindset. There is enough for everyone. We don't need to live in fear. We can live in empathy. And when we are in the scarcity mindset, we are training ourselves to be unempathetic because I don't want to worry about your problems. There's not enough to go around for me. So that's another important part. Now there's another side of the coin that's very important. Like one of my dear and one of my favorite mentors likes to say, Debbie Beebe, mwah, the grace you give is the grace you live. Okay, so if you are not giving yourself grace, you are not going to be giving grace to others. So we need to be empathetic. We need to focus on others, but we also need to sometimes step out of ourselves and go in a third person and be empathetic to ourselves. Now this is different than complaining about our circumstances because we're looking at it from an outside point of view. So it's one thing to just complain about this and that and this went wrong and dwell on that. It's another thing to say, this went wrong in my life. You know, that was difficult. And I'm going to give myself grace for that and move forward. And part of giving yourself grace and giving yourself empathy is to recognize what kind of relationships are in your life and how to respond to that. And Ed Rush discusses the different types of relationships. He said there's one kind of relationship where this person makes your life harder. He or she is difficult to be around. They steal energy from you. In other words, they are a gigantic pain in the posterior. His words. And then there's another person who gives you more life and that you love being around. Now the person who's a gigantic pain in your posterior, he outlines a very civil, respectful way to address this person. When someone is taking your energy and you don't feel like you are having a good relationship with this person, we have to remember two things. First of all, this can be harmful to ourselves and it can be taking our own energy from places that we can be investing it where people appreciate it. And number two, this relationship is probably not working for that other person either. If they have been a giant pain for us for a while, we aren't helping them to go to the next level and stop being a pain for people. And so you respectfully address this, and either you grow from it and through it and you have an aha, and you might need to make an apology if you accidentally did something, or you say, this is a boundary. You can enjoy your life the way that you want to, and I don't have to be a part of how you like to enjoy your life aka complaining or lying or manipulating or whatever the behavior is that is not bringing value in your life and is taking from you, where you could be having better relationships in your life. So to conclude, let's all train to be empathetic. And one of the ways that we can do that is to set aside some time where we're really thinking about other people and being intentional about that. If you have a meditative practice, maybe instead of meditating on what you're usually meditating on, maybe your peace or your calm or your goals, take some of that time to meditate on someone that you care about and ask yourself those questions that I shared in the beginning of the video. When I do my prayer, I was really impacted when I came across this quote by Mother Teresa many years ago, and it's just so beautiful. I think it puts prayer in a really wonderful perspective. She said, "I used to pray that God would feed the hungry or do this or that, but now I pray that He will guide me to do whatever I'm supposed to do, what I can do. I used to pray for answers, but now I'm praying for strength. I used to believe that prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us and we change things." And we can just take that and just spend some time thinking about someone else so we can improve our empathy, and that way when we respond to that person, it will be with empathy, and then we can improve the empathy in our world and culture. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for comments and questions and feedback. Our discussions is what really inspires my videos and where I want to share with you next. So please message me or leave me a comment if you want to know more about something. We went over empathy pretty quickly. So please like, please share. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a lifestyle to thrive. Goodbye.